Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. Happy 4th of July week. Barry Odom and his staff are shooting off some fireworks. They're still cooking up the 2026 recruiting class as we speak, as another big commitment came in since we last spoke here on the show. We're going to talk about that, plus some encouraging news when it comes to football ticket sales with the newest member of the Gold and Black team, Dub Jellison, here in just a few minutes. But first, a shout out to our great Gold and Black sponsors, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn, this Midwestern oasis, is perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort, where tee times for the 2025 golf season are available. Using their online booking platform, it's easier than ever to find availability and experience golf as it was meant to be. Conveniently located in the breathtaking dunes of central Wisconsin, Sand Valley offers a collection of award-winning courses designed by world-renowned architects that are suitable for all skill levels. Visit sandvalley.com and book your tee times online today. And finally, the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermakers scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. As I mentioned, the newest member to the goldenblack.com team, he's football recruiting expert Dub Jellison, and he's kind enough to join us for the second week in a row. We haven't scared him away completely yet, at least I haven't. I can't speak for Tom and the rest of the crew. Dub, I threw in this disclaimer last week that, and I think I said it multiple times, hey, we're taping this on Monday, by the way. We're taping this on Monday because there's always that threat that we're going to miss a commitment. And, of course, we did exactly that, right? We missed a big one in Center Grove's Kobe Cherry, who committed late on Monday. What does he bring to the table for this Boilermaker defensive line?
Yeah, watching his film, he's super quick. He's not fast. I wouldn't necessarily put him in a uber athletic category, but he's quick off the ball, great with his technique. And anytime that you can be a difference maker for a program like Center Grove, who people around in Indiana and Indianapolis know is a kind of a powerhouse and a well-respected program, you're doing something right. So I think it was a big win for Purdue, getting him on board. And I think we did talk about this last week, but just, their commitment to bulking up on both sides of the trenches has been a real focus for them.
Is there a chance that, given his size, he would shift outside, or are they expecting him to bulk up and remain and take the lion's share of the reps at tackle? Or do they think maybe he could play multiple spots on the line, or maybe it's too early to determine any of that? But did he talk about that, or have people associated with the coaching staff talked about that with you yet, Dub?
I personally think that he could play either. Like I said, his quickness leads me to believe that he would have a shot at edge. But I think the expectation right now is to have him inside and continue bulking him up. Tom and I saw him at the team camp. Center Grove was up at Purdue, and you could tell which guy was the D1 Power 5 or Power 4 now defensive lineman. He's a big kid, 6'5", 285, looks the part. But I think he'll continue to get bigger and stick inside.
When you talk about, him overall as a prospect in Kobe Cherry, look, he's not the biggest blue chip in the world or anything, but what does his commitment mean? Not just for beating out IU, you beat out Louisville, who comes in here a lot to grab players, but regaining Purdue's footing in the state for top talent as well, which I know has been a little bit fleeting here in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a step in the right direction. You got him, you got Brock Brownfield from New Pal, and then James Williams from Lawrence Central. It's just establishing that footprint and establishing yourself as a staff to these in-state kids who, they know Purdue, but in their memory right now is 1-11. So it's got to take some convincing, and they've been close with a few of the top in-state guys, haven't quite gotten them. But in-state recruiting is going to be big for this staff, and I think they really put an emphasis on it. Obviously, not all of them are going to go Purdue's way. That's just the nature of recruiting. But getting Kobe Cherry, Brownfield, and James Williams is a good start.
The 2026 class is now at 18 players. Again, disclaimer, we're taping this on Monday right now, so you're going to listen to this. Maybe it's 19 by then. Maybe it's 20 by then. Where do Barry Odom and the rest of his staff turn next to fill out the rest of the class? Where are the areas that are still very much of need? I know there are multiple areas, but in filling out this 2026 group.
I think they need another edge to pair with Max Carmichael. K'Trell Webb would be at the top of that list. He's expected to announce later this week on 4th of July, actually. So it's down to Purdue, Florida State, and Indiana for him. Purdue had the momentum with him a while back after his official visit in late May. Florida State's a team I've heard a lot about with him lately, so they're still duking it out. And beyond him, I think the secondary, they're still looking for a couple of pieces. Obviously, Jet Goldsberry, who I think every Purdue fan knows by now, the legacy out of Heritage Hills down in Southern Indiana, and then Vincent Smith, still committed to Northern Illinois, but he's going to be flipping here pretty soon. He's down to Purdue, Iowa, and West Virginia. It seems there it's a battle between Purdue and West Virginia for Smith, but the secondary, getting a couple more safeties, that would go a long way in really solidifying this class. I think they still have a spot at edge. I think they still have an open spot at offensive line too. And Brody Smith and Cameron Miller are two names to watch there, which our subscribers have kind of known about. But those are the three main areas. I could see them adding another wide receiver. They only have two in Chemistry Young and Brandon Kinsey. Considering they only had one in the 2025 class, I don't know if they're going to roll the dice with the portal and get some younger guys next year, or if they'll try to bulk up in this class. But those are the three main areas that I would say that they could stand to improve.
Given his experience, I mean, clearly Purdue fans knew that when Barry Odom came here, this is a guy that has been around the block. He knows what he's doing. He's not a coach that's learning on the job. But even given all of that, are you surprised a little bit, Dub, that they've had seemingly this much success recruiting-wise? I mean, this was a 1-11 football team last year, and it's not like Purdue football has a tremendous amount of cachet right now. Yet it seems like, again, I'm not trying to misrepresent what they're doing here. It's not like these are a bunch of blue chip players or anything like that. But you're looking at some of these offers and who else is offering these kids, and it's Wisconsin, it's Indiana, it's some Big Ten powers, it's even out of state, some Western teams, things like that. And it seems like they're holding their own on this end so far with this class.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is the relationships that have been established prior to them getting here. I feel like more times than not, with high school recruits, it's a lot more about the relationship and feeling at home than it is the money aspect. Some of the blue chippers, they do want to know how much they're going to get paid. But, you look at guys like Imani Smith and Josiah Hope, two guys that Purdue flipped from Louisville, that had several big-time offers. And for them, it really boiled down to, feeling the love from the staff and that relationship aspect. So right now, I think that's kind of what they're leaning on. And, Barry Odom has been, he said it every chance he's gotten, he wants to turn this thing around fast. And that's kind of what's being conveyed to those recruits as well. So I think it's a kind of a combination between the relationship aspect and, Purdue's vision for how quickly they want to get Purdue back on the map.
We're talking Purdue football recruiting with Dub Jellison here, Golden Black Radio, Tuesday edition of the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Tom had a write-up on the very strong performance for season ticket sales, again, especially in the wake of a 1-11 season. In fact, student tickets are already sold out. I'm not just saying this to blow smoke, because I know a lot of these folks that are buying tickets are listeners and supporters of this show, and thank you for supporting Golden Black Radio and listening. But doesn't it underline, Dub, how great of a fan base this is to just stay steady with that support? And every expectation would be that it would just crater right now. There's very little familiarity with the roster because of all the portal overhaul. They're coming off a miserable season. And yet here they are, student season tickets are sold out, and they're like 2,500 away from selling out the rest as well. Absolutely. And, I think it spoke volumes last year. I think many of our listeners and subscribers were there at Ross-Ade Stadium. I'm sure you can vouch for this too. At the beginning of a lot of those games, it was pretty packed. Yeah. For the most part. Yep. Second half was a little different story as some of those games wore on. But
Purdue fans, with the exception of maybe the Hazel era, they've shown out, and they've continued to do that, and I think they will continue to do that. But it was pretty surprising to see Tom's story and see how well they've done in the ticket sales department.
Yeah, because you just thought that a lot of the momentum from the Brom era and all of that was about to be flushed or dwindle, and yet here we are. And I guess if you go to Purdue, a lot of people want the big collegiate experience of going to football games on Saturday afternoon. That's part of the allure of going to a program or going to a university like Purdue to have a major college football program. But still, it's not a given that you're going to be able to sell those seats. And credit to the ticket staff and everybody at Purdue Athletics for getting that done, because I think it's an amazing testament to their work as well, not only the fan base. Speaking of, the 2025 season, which will be here before you know it, we're approaching the 2-month mark until kickoff for that season. I asked the same question to Tom when the portal stuff wrapped a few weeks ago, and I understand, Dub, that this is a completely unfair question right now because there's so much unknown. But do you have a win total in mind for what would make this a successful season for year one of Barry Odom?
I think if they can get to a bowl game, that would be a massive win.
Sure.
I think you mentioned it at the top. Purdue doesn't have, the greatest history as far as football success goes. If you can get to a bowl game, win 8 games in a season, you're gonna make the fan base extremely happy. But I don't necessarily see this being a Kurt Signetti at IU situation. I don't know if anyone really does, but if you can get in the range to get to a bowl game and potentially get that 6th win to get to a bowl game, I think that'd be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be incredible if Purdue was in a position going into the bucket game where win and you're eligible.
Mm-hmm.
If they could be 5-6 going into that game, I think that would be incredible given what this schedule is, because you still have to go at Notre Dame and Ball State, Southern Illinois. It's going to be imperative that you start 2-0 there. But I'm really focused on that stretch, that USC, Notre Dame, Illinois stretch. I know a lot of people are talking about the Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers one, but that week 3 through 5. USC coming all the way to West Lafayette. I understand that there's a talent gap there, right? But they're making the trip, and we know weird stuff happens when the West Coast teams come over here, and it'll probably always be that case. I don't know if that'll ever be normal. And then there's just something about the Cannon game. Illinois on paper clearly is a better team than Purdue, right? That Cannon game's been weird. It was weird last year. It's a weird rivalry where even like bad Purdue teams, like capital B bad Purdue teams, have not only competed with Illinois, but they've beaten them a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And in Illinois' defense, they've been pretty bad at times as well in that rivalry. So if you can escape out of that if you could steal one of those 3, then I think we could start to think about, okay, maybe bowl eligibility could be possibly in the equation. But again, I'm projecting way out here because none of us have any idea what this team is going to look like coming up this fall. But I think that's part of the fun of the season, right? That, the excitement is in the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think last year it was the same story every week, and I think Purdue fans are kind of hoping for some excitement. And, I don't think anyone's necessarily expecting them to get to the college football playoff or anything like that in year one, but just giving them something to talk about in a positive light, I think would be big.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a miracle if they were a playoff team, but if they could just get within shouting distance of bowl eligibility, I think you'd take that just with where they've been and where they are. And even, like if they go 4-8, that's a 3-game improvement from last year. It doesn't sound, you're not going to raise a banner or have a parade for 4-8, but hell, 4-8 is better than the alternative. At some point we're going to get to stop talking about 2024, which will be nice too. That's the win in 2025. Just the fact that we can finally turn the page on 2024. You can check out Dub's work, goldenblack.com, doing a great job, really hitting the ground running as far as recruiting is concerned. And of course, throughout the summer and then into the fall, he'll be a big part of our football coverage right here on Golden Black Radio. We'll talk to you again soon, man. I promise I won't bother you next week. I'll make Tom do it or Brian or somebody else. I'll give you the week off next week, but we'll talk to you soon. Have a great 4th.
Yep, you too. You know I'm always down to talk, though. You just got to take.
That's right. You talk for a living. Thanks, Dub.
Thank you.
It's Dub Jellison, and that is our show for today. And I want to give a final thank you to all of our great sponsors that make Gold and Black Radio possible each and every Tuesday. That list includes Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort. Tee times for the 2025 golf season at Sand Valley are now available. Visit sandvalley.com and book your tee times today. I just had some buddies that went and played Sand Valley. It really is a destination golf course. If you want to check it out, they raved about it. Sandvalley.com if you want to check it out. And finally, the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And of course, you can leave a positive review on whatever platform you're utilizing to listen to the show, to watch this show. Also, if you haven't already, you'll want to subscribe to the goldandblack.com channel on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, really anywhere and everywhere that we are. And if you enable alerts, you'll be sure you'll never miss new highlights, new episodes, new videos, which are all uploaded regularly, especially as we start to ramp up for the start of the fall and football season and even the basketball news cycle. I know it's a little bit dead right now. It never truly dies like it used to. So check out all of our platforms, all of our coverage, not only Dub, Tom, Brian, Carm, Alan, the rest of the Gold and Black crew, Knucklehead Central. If you're not a subscriber, goldandblack.com, all the usual plugs that I give at the end of the show. Please like, subscribe, do all of those things, and continue supporting us the way that you have so far. It really is a tremendous fan base here that follows these terrific programs. But until next Tuesday, I'm Derek Schultz. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been Gold and Black Radio. Have a happy and safe 4th of July, and we'll see you next time.